I want to speak to you tonight about fear. Not the small fears, not the passing worries that come and go like weather. I want to speak to the fear that has taken up residence inside you, the one you carry to bed, the one that meets you in the morning before your eyes are fully open, the fear that has become so constant you have almost stopped calling it fear. You call it your life now. You call it being realistic. I know this fear because I have lived inside it. There were years in New York when I had nothing. I slept on the floor of a cold room. I had no money, no prospects, and a mind that ran the same terrified circles every single night. So when I speak to you about fear, understand, I am not speaking to you from above. I am speaking to you as a man who once lay awake exactly as you lie awake, rehearsing disaster, watching my own imagination build the very prison I was begging to escape. And I want to tell you something at the very start, before we go any further. The fear you feel is not your enemy. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that you have a powerful imagination, the most powerful instrument in the universe, and that instrument has simply been pointed in the wrong direction. The same faculty that terrifies you at 2 in the morning is the faculty that could set you free. You have not been failing. You have been using the law perfectly. You have simply been using it against yourself. Now, before I teach you how to turn it, and I will teach you fully tonight, I need to give you something, because I can see where you are. I can see that you have tried things. You have said your affirmations, you have imagined the end, and still, by morning, the feeling was gone, and the fear had crept back in, and you wondered what you were doing wrong. Let me tell you what you were doing wrong. Nothing, except that you were given one piece of a sequence and told it was the whole thing. When I came to Abdullah in New York, the Ethiopian who taught me everything I know of this law, he did not begin with scenes. He did not begin with affirmations or living in the end. Before any of that, Abdullah made me master one thing, and one thing only: revision before sleep. The clearing of the day before I laid my head down. He would not let me build anything until I had learned to clear the soil first, and it took me years to fully receive why. I have written that exact practice, the one Abdullah gave me before anything else, into a short, free guide. I call it Rewrite Tonight. It is not a summary of this video. It is a complete 3-minute pre-sleep revision protocol. It shows you how to choose the 3 moments from your day that are poisoning your sleep, how to revise each one until your subconscious carries a clean record into the night instead of a wounded one, and how to feel that clearing, the actual physical relief of it, that finally lets every other technique reach the deeper mind. It is free. It is immediate, and I want you to have it tonight, not next week. Here is how. It is the first link in the description below this video. Open it, now, or comment the single word "rewrite" below, and I will send it to you myself. That is all it takes. One word, rewrite. Put it in the comments right now, before you keep listening, before the day pulls you back and you forget. I read these comments and I reply personally with the link. This is not a favor to me. This is you claiming something that is already yours. The first step, the one I was given, handed to you for nothing. Comment rewrite. Do it now, while the desire is hot, because desire that is not acted upon cools, and a cool desire plants nothing. And I want you to understand why this matters so much, because it goes to the very heart of why your results have been inconsistent. What you have been practicing is one movement of a 4-part nightly sequence. Only one, perhaps 2. There is revision, which clears the soil. There is the correction of your inner speech, the constant conversation you carry on with yourself all day long. There is the precise construction of the scene that implies your wish fulfilled, and there is the falling asleep inside that state, holding it until the transfer to the subconscious is complete. You have been doing one of these, perhaps two, and you have wondered why the feeling fades by morning. It fades because the sequence was never completed. The subconscious received a partial instruction, and partial instructions produce partial results. You did not fail the law. You were simply never given the whole of it in order. So start with the clearing. Start with rewrite tonight. And for those of you who feel it right now, who already know that clearing alone is not the end of it, who are ready for the full transfer, you will find the rest waiting the moment you open the guide. 7 nights, 4 movements. The exact order Abdullah gave it to me. But start with the clearing. Start tonight. Comment rewrite, or take that first link, and begin where I began. Now, let me teach you. The first thing you must understand about fear is what it actually is. Fear is not a feeling that happens to you. Fear is an act of imagination. It is you, imagining something you do not want, so vividly, so repeatedly, with such feeling, that your body responds as though it were already true. That racing heart, that tightness in the chest, that sinking in the stomach, your body is not reacting to the world. Your body is reacting to a picture in your mind. It cannot tell the difference. It never could. Sit with that, because it is the doorway to everything. Your body responds to imagination as though imagination were fact. When you fear, you are giving your imagination, your creative power, the very power of God within you, over to the construction of the thing you least want. And the law does not care what you feed it. The law is faithful. It takes whatever you assume to be true and it hardens it into fact. Fear is faith. It is faith in the unwanted. It is you believing, with your whole body, in the reality of what has not yet happened. I learned this from Abdullah in a way I will never forget. When I was desperate to return to Barbados, the island where I was born, my family, the warmth I missed with my whole heart, I had no money for the passage. I told Abdullah I wanted to go home for Christmas, and he looked at me and he said, "You are in Barbados." He would not discuss it further. He told me I was already there. And every time I said, "I want to go," he corrected me. He would not let me speak of it as a distant thing. He made me sleep as though I were already on that island, in that home, feeling the trade winds, hearing the voices of my family, and I resisted him because my whole body was screaming the opposite. My body knew I was in a cold room in New York with empty pockets. My fear was louder than his instruction, but I did as he said. Night after night, I refused the fear and I assumed the feeling of already being home. And before that season passed, without my seeing how it could happen, the way opened. I sailed to Barbados. I spent that Christmas exactly where Abdullah had insisted I already was. Here is what that taught me. The bridge of incidents, the series of events that carried me from a cold room to a warm island. I did not build that bridge. I could not have planned it. My reasoning mind could not have found the way. But the moment I assumed the end, the moment I persisted in the feeling of the wish fulfilled and refused to let fear rewrite it, the bridge built itself. Circumstances I could not have arranged themselves. That is the law. You assume the end. The end draws the means to itself. Your only work is at the level of assumption. So let us name the second truth, and it follows from the first. Whatever you are afraid of, you are assuming. Let me say that again, because it will sting a little, and it should. Whatever you are afraid of, you are assuming it. You are not merely worried about it as an outside possibility. You are dwelling in it. You are living inside its reality, in your imagination, walking through the conversation where you hear the bad news, seeing the face of the person who rejects you, feeling the shame of the failure. You are rehearsing it in inner speech all day long, and every rehearsal is a prayer. Every rehearsal deepens the groove. I wrote in Feeling is the Secret that it is not the thing you think about that matters. It is the thing you feel to be true. You can think about wealth all day, but if you feel poverty, you will harvest poverty. And fear is feeling. Fear is the most concentrated feeling there is. When you fear, you are not lightly considering an outcome. You are drenched in the feeling of it. That is why fear is so creative. That is why the thing you fear so often arrives. Job knew this. He said, "The thing which I greatly feared is come upon me." That is not misfortune, that is law. He greatly feared it. He fed it feeling, and so it came. Now do not despair when you hear this. Do not turn it into one more thing to be afraid of your own fear, afraid of your own thoughts. That is the trap, and I will not let you fall into it. Because here is the mercy at the center of this teaching. If your imagination created the fear, your imagination can uncreate it. The same power that built the prison holds the key. You are not at the mercy of your fear. You are the source of it. And what you are the source of, you can redirect. This brings me to the third truth. You must stop trying to get rid of fear and start replacing it. This is where so many of you exhaust yourselves. You fight the fear. You try to push the frightening thought away, to think positive, to force it out. And it will not go. It cannot go, because the mind does not empty on command. You cannot make yourself not think of a thing. The harder you push against the fearful image, the more attention you give it, the more feeling you pour into it, the more real you make it. You do not remove darkness by fighting it. You remove darkness by turning on the light. You do not defeat a fearful assumption by struggling against it. You defeat it by assuming the opposite so completely that the fear simply has no room to stand. This is why I never tell you to stop being afraid. I tell you to occupy your imagination with the wish fulfilled, to fill it so full of the desired state that there is no vacancy for fear to rent. And how do you do that? You do it in what I have called the state akin to sleep. That drowsy state just before you fall asleep at night, when the body is still and the mind is quiet and the reasoning faculty has loosened its grip. In that state, your imagination is at its most impressionable. Whatever you assume there, whatever you feel there, passes into the subconscious without resistance. This is the sacred hour. This is when the transfer happens, and most of you are throwing it away. Because what do you do in that hour now? You rehearse the fear. You lie down, and the day replays itself, and the anxieties of tomorrow crowd in, and you fall asleep steeped in dread. You are using the most powerful, most creative moment of your entire day to impress the subconscious with the very thing you do not want. You are praying all night for disaster, and then you wake and wonder why life feels like a trap. This is why Abdullah began with revision. He understood that before you could plant anything new, you had to stop planting the old. You cannot build a beautiful house on cursed ground. You must clear the soil first, and the soil is the day you carry into sleep. So let me teach you revision, because this is the heart of it, and this is what the guide will walk you through in full. Revision is the practice of taking the moments of your day that troubled you, that frightened you, that went wrong, and rewriting them in your imagination before you sleep, so that your subconscious receives the corrected version instead of the wounded one. You had a conversation that went badly. Someone spoke sharply to you, or you received news that frightened you, or you failed at something, and the shame of it is still sitting in your chest. If you carry that into sleep unrevised, you impress it. You make it the seed for tomorrow. But if, in that quiet hour before sleep, you replay the scene as you wish it had gone, the conversation warm instead of cold, the news good instead of bad, the moment ending in triumph instead of shame, and you feel it, feel the relief of it, feel it as though it were the true version, then that corrected scene is what the subconscious carries into the night. And the subconscious does not argue. It does not say, but that is not what really happened. It takes what you give it, and it goes to work making the future conform to it. I revised my days for years. I revised conversations moments after they happened. I revised the whole day every night before sleep. And slowly, unmistakably, my outer world began to soften and rearrange itself around the revised version. The people who had been sharp with me grew kind. The circumstances that had pressed on me eased. Not because I confronted anyone, not because I changed a single thing in the outer world by force. I changed the inner record. And the outer world, which is nothing but crystallized inner speech, crystallized differently. You must understand this about the outer world, and it is the fourth thing I want to give you tonight. The world you see is the world you have spoken into being, not with your lips, with your inner conversation. All day long you carry on a conversation with yourself. Most of you are not even aware of it. It runs beneath your notice like a river beneath a city. And that inner conversation is the mold into which your future is poured. Listen to your inner speech for one day, and you will be horrified. You will hear yourself all day long, telling yourself the worst. This won't work out. They don't like me. I can't afford it. Something always goes wrong for me. It's too late for me. That is not observation. That is creation. Every one of those sentences is a command to the subconscious. And the subconscious obeys. It is faithful. It hears something always goes wrong for me, and it dutifully arranges for something to go wrong so that your inner speech may be proven true. You are being answered constantly. You are simply not aware of what you are asking for. The correction of inner speech is the second movement of the sequence. You catch the fearful sentence, and you refuse it, and you replace it, not with forced cheerfulness. That never held for anyone. You replace it with the inner speech of a person whose wish is already fulfilled. You ask yourself, what would I be saying to myself in my quiet inner conversation if the thing I desire were already mine? What would that person's mind sound like? And you begin, deliberately, to think from that state instead of about it. This is the whole secret in a single phrase. You must think from the wish fulfilled, not of it. When you think of your desire, you stand here, in lack, looking across a distance at a thing you do not have, and the very looking confirms the distance. But when you think from your desire, you have moved, you have taken up residence in the state of already having it, and from inside that state, you look out at a world that agrees with you. The fear cannot survive there, because fear requires the assumption of lack, and you have vacated that assumption. You have moved house. Now let me speak directly to those of you whose fear is about money, because I know so many of you carry that particular weight, and I carried it myself for years. The fear of not having enough is perhaps the most relentless fear of all, because money touches everything: your shelter, your food, your standing, your sense of safety in the world. And when you are in it, the fear feels like the most rational thing in the world. The numbers are real. The bills are real. The lack seems like simple fact. But hear me. Your financial condition is the crystallization of your financial inner speech. When I was broke in New York, My inner conversation was a constant hymn of lack. I told myself I could not afford things 100 times a day. I felt poor in my bones, and the world, faithful as ever, kept me poor, because I kept assuming poverty in the most convincing state there is, the state of feeling. I was not merely thinking poor thoughts. I was feeling poor all day, and that feeling was the seed. What changed was not my circumstances first. It never is. What changed first was my assumption. Abdullah made me feel wealthy before I had $1 to justify it. He made me assume the feeling of being a man of means, not the thought of it, the feeling of it, and to sleep in that assumption night after night. And it seemed absurd. It seemed like lying, but it was not lying. It was living in the end. It was occupying the state I desired until that state hardened into fact and drew its confirmation to itself. The money came, and it came by ways I could not have predicted. Always by ways you cannot predict, because your job is never the how. Your job is the assumption. The how belongs to the law. So if your fear is money, understand what you are doing when you lie awake counting what you do not have. You are impressing lack. You are, in the most creative hour of your day, in the state akin to sleep, feeding the subconscious a detailed and vivid picture of poverty and asking it, in effect, to make more of the same. And it will. It is faithful. That is why revision matters so much for you especially. You must clear that soil. You must refuse to fall asleep steeped in financial dread. You must revise the day's fears about money into the feeling of sufficiency and fall asleep as a person for whom the problem is already solved. Let me give you the fifth truth, and this one is subtle, and you must receive it carefully. Fear is a request for the how. When you are afraid, examine the fear closely and you will find, underneath it, a demand. You are demanding to know how the good thing could possibly come to pass. You look at your situation, you see no visible path from here to your desire, and the absence of a visible path terrifies you. You cannot see the bridge, so you assume there is no bridge, and the fear rushes in to fill the gap where faith should be. But I have told you, you do not build the bridge of incidents. You never did. When I assumed I was in Barbados, I did not know how. There was no visible way. The knowing of the how is not your work and never was. The moment you assume the end and persist in it, the how organizes itself out of 1,000 things you could never have arranged. The phone rings, a stranger makes an offer, a door you did not know existed opens. This is the bridge of incidents, and it is built by the law in answer to your assumption, not by your anxious planning. So when the fear comes and demands, "But how? How could this possibly happen for you?" you must learn to answer it with a kind of holy indifference. You must say, in effect, "That is not my department. Your department is the end, the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the state. You hold that, and you let the how be the law's business. The moment you try to seize control of the how, you have stepped out of faith and back into fear, because the reasoning mind, looking at present facts, can never see the way. It was not designed to. It can only extrapolate from what already is. And what already is precisely what you are trying to change. This is why persistence matters so much, and why so many of you give up right at the threshold. You assume the end for a night or a week, and then the outer world does not immediately change. In fact, sometimes it seems to get worse. The old fears return, the circumstances press harder, and you conclude the law does not work, and you abandon your assumption and return to the fear. But hear me, the apparent worsening is often the bridge itself beginning to form. The rearrangement of your world is not always smooth. Sometimes things must fall apart in the old arrangement before they can reassemble in the new. If you abandon your assumption at the first sign of upheaval, you tear down the bridge while it is being built. I persisted for a return to Barbados against every visible fact. I persisted for money against empty pockets. Persistence in the assumption, in spite of the evidence of the senses, that is the whole of it. That is faith. Faith is not a feeling of certainty that comes easily. Faith is the deliberate persistence in an assumption that your senses deny. It is loyalty to the unseen, and the reward of that loyalty is that the unseen becomes seen. Now I want to give you the sixth truth, and it goes deeper than technique, deeper than method. It goes to who you are. You must understand that I am is the creative power, and that I am is you. When you say I am, and follow it with anything, I am afraid, I am poor, I am sick, I am alone, you are not describing yourself. You are creating yourself. You are taking the great creative name, the very name of God, and welding it to a state. And whatever you weld to, I am, you become. Fear, at its root, is a misuse of the great name. It is you saying, I am, to states you do not want. I am terrified. I am going to lose everything. I am not going to make it. Each of these is an act of self-definition, and the subconscious accepts your self-definition without question. It does not evaluate whether your I am is wise or unwise, kind or cruel to you. It simply says yes. It is the great affirmer. It says yes to every I am you offer it. So the discipline of a life free from fear is, in the end, the discipline of what you attach to, I am. You must become vigilant at the gate of that phrase. You must refuse to say I am to the states of fear, and you must deliberately, repeatedly, feelingly say I am to the states of your fulfilled desire. I am safe. I am provided for. I am loved. I am well, not as a chant, not as a hollow repetition, but as an assumption you enter and inhabit until it feels natural, until it feels like the simple truth about yourself. This is not positive thinking. I want to be very clear, because the world has cheapened these truths into slogans. Positive thinking is the reasoning mind trying to talk itself into feeling better about a situation it still believes is real and threatening. What I am teaching you is something else entirely. I am teaching you to actually change the state you occupy, to move your sense of self out of the fearful state and into the fulfilled state so completely that you are no longer thinking positively about your problem. You have simply left the problem behind by becoming someone for whom it does not exist. States are like cities. You do not think your way out of a city. You leave it. You pack up your sense of I am, and you move it to a different address. And the state of fear is one city, and the state of the fulfilled wish is another. And you have the freedom, at any moment, to change your residence. Most people do not know they have this freedom. They think they are stuck in the city of fear because it is where they were born or where circumstances put them. But you are not a citizen of any state by necessity. You are a citizen by assumption, and you may change your citizenship tonight. Let me tell you how this looked in a small and human way, because I do not want you to think this law is only for grand things. A woman came to me once, years ago, in terrible fear over a family matter. I will not detail it, but she was consumed by dread over a person she loved and a situation that seemed hopeless. And I gave her the discipline of revision and of the fulfilled scene. I told her to construct a single scene that would imply the happy resolution, not the whole story, just one small scene that could only be true if all was well. and to enter that scene every night before sleep, and feel it, and fall asleep in it. And she did. And the situation, which reason called hopeless, resolved. Not the way she expected, never the way we expect, but it resolved, and the fear that had gripped her for months simply had nothing left to feed on, because the reality had rearranged itself around her assumption. She did not conquer her fear by fighting it. She rendered it obsolete by changing the fact it was afraid of. This is the construction of the scene, the third movement of the sequence. And it is an art, and it must be done with precision, which is why I put the exact method in the guide. The scene must be short. It must be sensory. You must see it, hear it, feel the textures of it. And above all, it must imply the fulfillment of your wish, without you having to state the wish directly. If you desire wealth, you do not imagine a pile of money. You imagine a scene that could only be real if you were already wealthy. The handshake of congratulation, the ease of a purchase you once could not make, the words of a friend rejoicing with you. If you desire the resolution of a fear, you construct the scene that lives on the other side of that fear, in the calm after the storm has passed, and you make it so real to your senses that your body relaxes into it as into a fact. And then, and this is the fourth movement, and the one most of you neglect entirely, you fall asleep in it. You do not construct the scene and then get up and check your phone and worry about tomorrow and finally drift off in your ordinary anxious state. That undoes everything. You construct the scene and you remain in it, and you let it carry you down into sleep, so that the last impression on your consciousness, the impression that seeps into the subconscious as the reasoning mind dissolves, is the impression of the wish fulfilled. That is the transfer. That is when the seed is truly planted. To construct the scene and then abandon it before sleep is to plant a seed and dig it up an hour later to see if it has grown. Revision to clear the soil, correction of inner speech through the day, the precise construction of the scene, and falling asleep inside the state until the transfer is complete. 4 movements, 1 sequence, and when you do all 4, in order, night after night, fear does not merely diminish. Fear loses its home, because fear can only live in a consciousness that is assuming the unwanted, and you have systematically evicted the unwanted from every hour where it used to live. Let me address something I know some of you are feeling right now, because I can see it. You are thinking, Neville, this is beautiful, but you do not know my situation. My fear is justified. The threat is real. The circumstances are truly dire. And I want to honor that, because your frustration is not weakness. It is the sign of a genuine and powerful desire pressing against a wall of apparent fact. The very depth of your fear is the measure of the depth of your desire. You would not fear losing a thing you did not deeply want to keep, or fear not getting a thing you did not deeply long for. So your fear, painful as it is actually pointing straight at your treasure. It is showing you exactly what you care about most. But hear me on the matter of your circumstances being real. Of course they are real. As an effect, they are the real, hardened, crystallized result of assumptions you have already made. They are real the way a photograph is real. But a photograph does not create the next photograph. The negative does. And you are the negative. The outer circumstance, however solid it feels, has no creative power of its own. It cannot perpetuate itself except by your continued assumption of it. The moment you stop feeding it your inner speech, your feeling, your assumption, the moment you withdraw your I am from it and attach your I am to the desired state, the old circumstance begins to lose its power to reproduce itself, and the new assumption begins to crystallize in its place. So do not tell me your fear is justified by the facts. The facts are the offspring of yesterday's assumptions. Tonight's assumption is the parent of tomorrow's facts. You are always standing at the point of creation. Always. The past has no power over you except the power you grant it by continuing to assume from it. And revision is precisely the tool that severs that power. It goes back into the record and changes the parent so that the child, when it comes, is different. I want to give you the seventh truth now, and it is perhaps the most freeing thing I will say tonight. You are already the person you are afraid of not becoming. In imagination right now, you can be him. You can be her. The gap you feel between where you are and where you long to be, that gap exists only in the sense of your present state, and the present state is the one thing you have absolute authority to change this very night. You do not have to earn your way across the gap by years of struggle. You cross it in an act of assumption. You simply become, in feeling, the one who has already arrived. This is what I meant in the power of awareness when I spoke of living in the end. The end is not a destination you travel toward. The end is a state you enter now, and having entered it, you let the world catch up to you. Living in the end means you no longer live for the day when the fear will be resolved. You live from the resolution. You go about your day as one for whom it is already accomplished. And the difference in your inner speech, your feeling, your posture toward life is total. And that total difference is what reshapes the outer world. Fear lives entirely in the future. Have you noticed that? Fear is never about now. Right now, in this actual present moment, you are all right. You are breathing. You are here. The fear is always about what might happen, the future disaster, the coming loss, the imagined catastrophe. Fear is imagination projected forward into a nightmare, and the cure is imagination projected forward into fulfillment. Same faculty, same power, different assumption. You are already using imagination to build the future. The only question I am putting to you tonight is which future you will build with it. Now let me gather this together, because I want you to leave tonight with something you can actually do, not merely something you have understood. Understanding without practice is just another way of standing still. Tonight, before you sleep, you will do the first thing Abdullah gave me. You will clear the soil. You will look back over your day, and you will find the moments that troubled you, the sharp word, the frightening news, the failure, the worry, and you will not carry them into sleep as they were. You will revise them. You will rewrite each one until it went the way you wished, and you will feel the corrected version until it feels more true than the original, and you will let that clearing wash through you, that specific relief, that lightening in the chest, and you will fall asleep in it. That is the beginning. That is where I began. And here is the full method for choosing which moments to revise, and how many, and how to revise them so completely that the subconscious carries the clean record and not the wounded one. I have written all of it into Rewrite Tonight, a complete 3-minute pre-sleep revision protocol. It is free, and it is immediate, and it is the exact step Abdullah put before everything else. Take the first link in the description and open the guide tonight, or comment the word Rewrite below. Not as a comment, as a decision. You are done lying down at night, carrying the weight of an unrevised day. You are done planting seeds in soil you never cleared. Comment Rewrite or open the link, and begin where I began. And when you open that guide, you will find the rest of it waiting. The full sequence I have described to you tonight, laid out over 7 nights, 4 movements, in the exact order Abdullah gave it to me. If you already feel that the clearing alone is not enough for you, if you already know you are ready for the whole transfer, it will be there, and you will recognize it, because I have already told you what it is. But whatever you choose, start with the clearing. Start tonight. Now let me leave you with this, and I want you to remember it, because there will come a day when you will want to return to these words. The thing you are so afraid of losing, you will not lose it. The thing you are so afraid you will never have, you are going to have it. Not because you fought your fear into submission, but because you finally turned your imagination toward the end and slept in it until the world had no choice but to conform. There will come a morning, and it may be sooner than you dare believe, when you will wake and realize the fear is simply gone, and the thing you longed for is simply here, and you will not be able to point to the exact day it changed, because it changed in the invisible first, the way all things change. And on that morning you will remember that a man told you it was already done the night you first refused to carry your fear to bed. I have watched this law operate without a single exception for the whole of my life. It did not fail me in a cold room in New York, and it will not fail you where you sit tonight. You were never a victim of the world. You were always its author. And the day you fully receive that, the day it moves from your head into your bones, is the day fear ends, because a man who knows he is the author has nothing left to fear from the story. Begin tonight, clear the soil, sleep in the end, and let the world catch up to you. There is one more thing you must learn, and it is the natural completion of everything I have taught you tonight. For once you have learned to clear the day and sleep in the end, you will discover that there is a way to remain in that state through all your waking hours, so that you never fall out of it at all. That is what I will teach you next, how to stay in the wish fulfilled when your eyes are open, and it will only make full sense to you once tonight's clearing has done its quiet work.